how to propagate them. So when you look at a rhodiola, superficially they look like a sedum, but in rhodiola each flower, each plant is either male or female. That is to say, rhodiola is dioecious. At one time it was included in sedum. When you look at a sedum flower, it has both male and female parts in the same flower. So rhodiola are closely related to sedum, but not the same. And they're generally high mountain plants, so they need sun, but they also don't like it too dry. They need moisture. And to propagate these, you need to understand something about the basic physiology of the plant. So this particular one is Rhodiola fastigiata, and it has what's called a trunk or a caudex. And the caudex can stand above the ground anything up to 20 or 30 centimetres. And I've got some other varieties with caudex or caudices here. This one is Rhodiola wallichiana, with masses of trunks, and it runs and spreads with these trunks everywhere. And the flowers on this one are pale yellow when they come. You can just about see that. And this one is just really easy to divide, so there's no particular problem with that. You just pull bits off and divide it. And then this is Rhodiola rosea, and here you can see the caudex or trunk is just above the ground. So you can see this caudex or trunk here just above the ground, and you can see it again here with this caudex just above the ground like this. But the majority of species of Rhodiola, the caudex or trunk is below the ground. It's hidden, so you can't see it. So this plant here is one that I propagated this year. So this is this year's propagation, and the trunk isn't really visible. And then here's one that I did last year, and you can see the trunk is a lot more visible. But as I say, they can be up to here. Right, so when you propagate a rhodiola, you have to remember that the vegetative pieces in the winter will just die away. So they all just die away, completely gone. They're herbaceous stems, and there's no way that you can propagate a rhodiola from these stems. And I think this is where people go wrong. In my life, I've probably sold more of this plant than any other plant. But people don't understand that you cannot do it from the above ground stems. They're just herbaceous, they contain no buds. So the only way you can do it is by having parts of the caudex. So for each cutting that you make, you must have a piece of caudex. And what we're going to do with this is one of this year's, remember, so it's only just been done. But I thought I'd brutalise it for the purposes of this video. And you can see, even though this is first year plant, would have been propagated in July time, it's actually got quite a lot of trunk going on underneath. If you get in there, you can see there's buds here, there's several buds all the way around. So what we're going to do is we're going to be really, really mean to this plant, and we're going to cut it. So we're going to find a central point, and we're just going to cut down. And when you're cutting, half the battle is actually feeling what's going on with the knife. You need to feel what's happening, so that when you don't just stick a knife in and chop, you're actually feeling your way through the plant as you cut it. And if you look here, I've cut it pretty much exactly in half. Now, I will always use flowers of sulphur. I've already discussed the use of flowers of sulphur. So I've made now essentially one plant into two, and now I'm going to be more brutal. And I'm going to cut each one of these in half again, like that. Okay. And I will end up with 4 pieces. So I start with 1, and I end up with 4, like that. And each piece has got shoots, it's got caudex, and it's got roots. And that's what you need to remember. With certain plants, you have to have all 3 pieces, otherwise you get nowhere. So we stick flowers of sulphur on here, And then in my usual way, after I put flowers of sulphur on, I will then just let them air for a little bit, just let them dry out, because as well as the sulphur, which is very, very acid, makes it very acid so that no bacteria or fungi can grow, just drying it off for a little bit will help kill any fungi and bacteria that are there. Okay, so here's another piece. I'm going to be even more brutal with this. So I'm going to pick the tops off like that, and I can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shoots on there. So what I'm going to try and do is cut this in such a way that each of the pieces has got a part of the cortex and a shoot. So I start off by taking it in half like that. So you can see it's taken in half. And then that's got 3 shoots on it. You can see 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to see if I can get 3 bits out of there. So I'm going to go well, I think those 2 bits are so close together, I'm not going to get those. But I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 pieces. Each piece has got a piece of green stem and a cortex. And if I was going to do this in, I would normally do this in about July time. And then it is important that you put them in the shade. Now I've just dumped them in the dirt, so they're filthy. So I'm going to stick them in the sulphur. Get all those cut surfaces covered in sulphur like that. So then they're all covered in sulphur and they're just waiting. And again, we leave them to one side just to dry out a little, and then we'll pot them up. And when you're first starting any of this kind of stuff, I suggest you keep records. It's really important to keep records, and especially when you have your labels, you can write on your labels what you've done. So you write the Latin name, and then you're going to say, I'm going to write on here cut into 5, and I'm going to put the date. And today's date is, I normally do this in July, so let's just pretend it's July. Right, that's for that one. So each one of these pieces will be potted individually into a 7cm pot and kept somewhere out of direct sunlight for at least 2 or 3 weeks. And then once we feel they've kind of settled in and you can see they're kind of starting to look a little bit happier, we then move them to a more sunny position. So straight into a 7cm pot.